Carmen, if you'd like to introduce Diana.
Yes, Diana's wonderful. She's not only a friend, but she's an amazing physician. She is a palliative medicine physician and director of supportive oncology at Northwell Health Cancer Institute in the Zuckerberg Cancer Center. She's an associate professor of medicine at the Zucker School of Medicine at Hofstra Northwell. She earned her medical degree at the State University of New York at Stony Brook and trained in internal medicine as well as hospice and palliative medicine at the Zucker School of Medicine at Hofstra Northwell. She runs a busy practice and she delivers high quality palliative care for patients with cancer. She has served as chair of the Medicinal Cannabis Work Group for the health system since 2017 and has established herself as both a leader in palliative oncology and expert in medicinal cannabis for cancer patients. Please welcome my friend and wonderful Diana Martins-Welch.
Thank you
Thank
so
you for doing this
much.
for us.
No, I appreciate being asked to be here. Thank you for having me. And I give this talk very humbly. I, I'm not one of the most established people online, but I gave this talk before, and I was really happy to refresh and give it here today, and hopefully, get people's wheels greased a little bit to get their own branding underway if they haven't already. So the objectives for today, I would like for you to learn what personal branding is. I want you to learn why a personal brand is important for physicians, and I will identify steps to get you started with your branding. So here I've laid out some recognizable physicians, a couple from Northwell, because that's the world that I live in. But some of you may recognize Dr. Oz, Atul Gawande, Dr. Andrew Weil of his integrative medicine and wellness world. And then we have the top right, Sandeep Johar. He is a notable physician in heart failure, and he writes books and he writes New York Times editorials. And of course, our very own Stacy Rosen, who is really well known among the Northwell community and at large, and holds positions in the American Heart Association as well. So these physicians stand out. A lot of physicians are out there. They've created a name for themselves. They have a niche. They're very recognizable in the common in the lay community. They've done something right, and I think we have to figure out as physicians how we want to be recognized by the lay community and by our fellow colleagues. So what is branding? Well, first of all, a personal brand is described by Jeff Bezos, what people say about you when you're not in the room. So what is the impression that you give to people that they will bring up when your name is brought up? How will they talk about you? The process of personal branding is the process and strategy of developing and maintaining your reputation. And this takes work. It's not something that just happens organically necessarily. Really, you have to put work into how you brand yourself, how people are going to recognize you. And so really the intersection at which your brand sits is between the how, the why, and the what. How are your the behaviors, how you deliver your products and services. The what makes you special, your beliefs and points of difference, and why, the reason why you exist, your values and your purpose. And that really is the crux of it. But your brand really sits at the center of all three of those categories. What is it not? So it's not marketing. You're not just trying to sell a product, right? That's not the point of branding. It's not acting. In fact, you want to be your most authentic self when you are trying to brand yourself. Or people can read through the BS. You want to be perceived as someone who is true and authentic, and has a mission behind what they're putting out there. It's not narcissism. I think that's another thing that people will see through and actually polarize people against you if you come off as too narcissistic. It's not just self-publicity, and it's not an extension of your employer's brand, and I'll touch on that after. So you may be asking yourself, what's the point of all this? Why do I need it? Why do I need a brand? So it allows you to take control of how you're perceived by others. So if we don't take control of it, then we may not have any reputation. We may not have any sort of brand. In preparing for this, I liked a comment I heard. What happens when you Google yourself? When you Google your name, what do you see? If you don't see anything, well, then that's your brand. It's not there. It's nothing. If you're lost in a sea of other people that may have similar names, again, you're not really, you haven't really established yourself. It distinguishes your practice and yourself from others in your field, in your organization. It helps you build your reputation, can create a positive image, and enhances your credibility. A brand extends your visibility and your public awareness. So again, you want to be visible, and a lot of this is going to lay in the online community. How do you do this? And so there's got work that has to be done to create an image for yourself online. A brand increases your value and it opens the door to networking opportunities. That's important. So, people may not know about you necessarily in your, outside of your organization, outside of your region. But if you have a brand and you have a reputation online, people will find you. And it'll prove to your employer that you can and you do add value. And I think it's important to note in this bullet point that, you know, although as physicians, I think we have very good job stability, but it happens, people lose their jobs. What makes you have value for the next job, right? You don't want to just have everything surrounding your existence as your organization. You want to be beyond that. You want to have value. And that proves that you, and it also is good for contract negotiation and all of that, to prove that you have a presence and you are known in your field. So having a strong brand allows you to develop a reputation that makes people want to work with you. It helps them to trust you, and it makes them expect a certain level of quality and consistency from you. And this is where we get into sort of the online talk, because let's face it, our online presence matters. This is how people get their information now. So even when you're looking for a physician for yourself or your family, what are you doing? You're looking up the physician, you're looking up their credentials, you're looking up their reviews. 57% of healthcare consumers use the internet to search for clinicians. I would say, that number is probably even higher now than when this survey was done. 77% of consumers always or regularly read online reviews when browsing healthcare practices. And if you do search for a physician online, it is most likely that you will see LinkedIn appear very high on the search. It appears higher on Google searches than other social media platforms. I think I was just Googling somebody maybe yesterday or today, and the LinkedIn page was the first thing that popped up. And then so these different sites, YouTube, Twitter, well, now known as X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, these are all platforms that are used very regularly by physicians who are promoting their brand. A personal website, however, does allow you to take full control over your online reputation. So physicians who are taking the next step to creating their personal brand or expanding their personal brand will have their own website and that will help to drive people to that site rather than looking up other things that you don't really have control over. Like I'm trying to think of some websites that our names will come up on, Doximity, is it ZocDoc or something like that? These sites where there may be things that come up that really we have no control over. But as being a physician who's licensed, you come up in searches. Well, if you have a personal website, your searchability, will be enhanced because that website will come up higher in the algorithm. As well as an online blog. That's where that does require work as well, though. But an online blog is where you can share knowledge, thoughts, news, and updates. So the website and the blog really allow you to take the next step in really curating the content that you're sharing online. These are some tips on what to avoid when building personal branding on social media. You want to avoid giving any specific medical advice. You want to be broad in what you're sharing, make it relatable to a large audience, and try to not be specific. Also sharing patient information. So be very, aware about HIPAA. And if you're sharing something about a rare case, you may need to put some time between when you saw that patient and when you are sharing that information. Of course, anonymously and vaguely, but you do want to, because that stuff can be tracked. If you see a patient with something very rare on a particular day and you post about it that night, that's usually not recommended. Sharing personal health choices that you're making for yourself, and also oversharing about your personal life. So these are things that you want to think about when you're trying to keep a social media presence. It's when you have a social media account, you do want to take um, care to regularly post and not just have an inactive account. If you go on someone's account and their last post was in 2023, they really aren't caring much to keep upkeep, right? You want to show that you are putting in the work to upkeep your account, sharing relevant information, informative content to the community. That will enhance your visibility. It will enhance your credibility. So educational things, patient success stories, positive outcomes. And also, if you want to go the next step, behind the scenes content, a day in the life of sort of thing. And there are plenty of docs out there that are doing this all the time. And doesn't necessarily have to take up their life. But again, it does take work. So how do you get started? So you want to understand your strengths, what you do well, what do you enjoy doing? And then question, what are my values? What do I uniquely offer? You want to become an expert at something. It can be in medicine, doesn't have to be in medicine, and find something that you can build a brand around. So it takes a lot of introspection here to really think about all of these questions as you're trying to think about what kind of brand do I want to build? What do I want to promote about myself? And then you want to decide on your audience. Who are you trying to attract the attention of? Is it other healthcare providers? Other physicians? Is it patients? You want to be consistent. Again, that goes to, the messaging that you're putting out on your professional social media, for example. You do want to have a consistent message, because if you're kind of all over the map with what you're sharing, different perspectives, different opinions, maybe contradictory opinions, that doesn't look good. You want to find opportunities that further your brand. So speaking engagements, interviews, and honestly, that also comes from having a presence, right? I'll give a personal anecdote. And when Twitter was, pretty strong, and I really enjoyed Twitter back in the day, I was building a pretty large following. I mean, it was mediocre, but it was getting there. I got to 1,000 followers at one point, and I was very proud of that. But I was contacted a few times through the Twitter direct messaging system about a speaking engagement on the other side of the country, to talk about medicinal cannabis, not for cancer patients either, but for HIV/AIDS at an HIV conference. And initially, I was kind of ignoring the message. I felt like I don't know why they're asking me to do this. I'm a palliative oncology doctor. This is not my realm. And the person really hunted me down. He ended up finding my email, and he got a hold of me. And finally, I said, why wouldn't I do this? It speaks to the fact that I built a name for myself and a reputation for myself in this space. And I did the speaking engagement. They flew me out there, and I realized, there is something to this. They found me on Twitter. And that was the how I got started. And so, it's not for nothing. Having your presence on social media does gain the attention of people as you build up your following. But again, it takes the work, it takes the consistency, it takes the really being mindful of posting regularly and engaging with others, not only just posting on your page, but following others, amplifying other people, retweeting and things of that nature. You want to think about your personal story as you're trying to, figure out what and how to brand yourself. People want to connect with people. So you really want to come through as I said before, authentic, as a human. So your story is the foundation of your brand. It sets you apart from others in your field. So, you may be saying to yourself, well, I'm I'm just another endocrinologist in my practice. I don't really have anything that stands out, but you do. You have to just do the introspection to really think about what is it that makes me stand out? Is there a particular area of your field of endocrinology, for example, that you are more focused in, that you have a research focus in, or that you've created, a name for yourself in teaching to the fellows, whatever it might be. And then kind of go with that, but everyone has an opportunity to make themselves stand out, even in the sea of other clinicians in their practice. Your personal story is a powerful way to establish your credibility, build your reputation, and connect with your audience on a deeper level. People want to know the About Me section. When I'm going on someone's website and I'm looking up whatever it might be, I often will find myself looking for the tab that says About Us or About Me. I want to read the story of the person behind the brand. Why are they doing this? What's their mission? So the questions to ask, who are you? Why do you do what you do? How can you add value? And all these should leave an impact with the reader. You want it to be something that draws people in. So you don't want to limit your personal brand. So as I alluded to earlier, you have an employer, you work in an organization, your brand shouldn't be wholly consisted of whatever your employer's brand is. So I like the other on the right side here, we have our dimensional personal brand. So you have your brand here in the middle, and it consists of a whole bunch of different things, right? Your employer's brand is one of those things that helps to create your brand, but it certainly is much more than that, as you can see here. So really think about all the different things that make you you, and that will feed into what your brand will be. So I included here some people in the Department of Medicine where I work at Northwell, who really have cultivated a great brand for themselves. Isabella Park is actually one of my palliative care colleagues, but she's a real force to be reckoned with. She is Associate Medical Director at Long Island Jewish Forest Hills. She does work in bioethicism. She is an age-friendly advocate, health system advocate, and she also has really created a name for herself in the diversity, equity, inclusion area within Northwell and beyond. She's involved with many cultural communities in the Queens area and beyond. So this is her LinkedIn, and I think LinkedIn is a great place to start if you don't have a social media account, or you're wondering where to start one. I think LinkedIn is great. So, at Twitter, now known as X, I feel like, and I'm sure you're reading through what I'm trying not to say in so many words, but it really is not the same place it used to be. And hence I had come off of it because it wasn't, the content was no longer as relevant, and a lot of the med Twitter was getting drowned out. Nonetheless, and Dr. Jia Eng is a nephrologist in our health system, and she has her own personal website. She has LinkedIn page. She's got many social media platforms, but I included her X page here. But she is doing amazing things in creating her brand, in executive leadership and personal branding coach, actually. She is a physician researcher that really tries to get people to learn how to start the basics of research, and is just an amazing person to look at if you wanted to know more about the next steps in branding. She's definitely one to follow. And then, of course, we have Dr. Stephanie McNally, who I think is just amazing, because she's somebody who, and these are some screenshots from her Instagram. She's someone who you can tell really is made for this work of putting out these small clips. She has Mondays with McNally. She'll put out little bits of informative medical things for the lay community. And she does it in a way where she's entertaining, but she's also really informative. She makes, funny videos, we'll do songs. It really speaks to also just how she is as a person. She's very outgoing and just a fun person all around, and has really cultivated a nice following. There isn't a person I've met who hasn't had rave reviews of Dr. McNally. So these are some pages that you can follow, and whether it be LinkedIn or Instagram or Twitter, and great examples just locally. I'm not even speaking about physicians who have made a name for themselves on a larger level. So and this is not something to do right now necessarily, but certainly to get the wheels turning, there's a skill building exercise here. So you can finish the sentence. I am in the business of blank. What are you in the business of doing? And then you want to write down 10 values that are important to you. And I have an example of those values in the next slide. Make a list of your degrees, any awards, any experiences. Really be extensive. Go to your CV, remind yourself of the things that you have done, the things you've accomplished, the things you've been awarded. Ask yourself, what is your why? And who is your target audience? The answers to these questions will help to build a framework. And then next, you write your personal story. And this is really where you want to start. Here are some values. And that's all I had, because I think I only had 20 minutes for the talk. So I'm happy to open it up for questions, discussion.
So that was excellent. Thank you, Diana. So many physicians are not on social media at all. And you seem to say that the place to start would be LinkedIn.
Yes.
How do you even get started there?
Right. Okay. So, and I really thought it was good. I thought Twitter was amazing when it was, and I just feel like I feel so badly that there was such a downfall with it, because that's where I cultivated my online presence. So if you guys go on my LinkedIn, do not be surprised. It is not the most active account in the world. I'm going to work better at that. But you simply have to, open up a page, and you want to put, and it will lay out for you the things that you want when you are trying to build your page, the things you want to highlight. Your present position, how long you've been there, and then previous positions. There's space for degrees, certifications, and then you also want to start finding people that you know. And when you put in where you went to school, where you trained, it will start suggesting people who went to the same school and trained in the same places, and work in the same place now as suggested people to follow. And that helps to create the greater online environment. When you are starting to post, you want to think about hashtags, for example. When I post something, I will try to hashtag Northwell Health. I will try to hashtag whatever organization I might have been, like I'm sure there's a hashtag MISNY, right? So, there you want a hashtag, because then it helps to build your post will hit greater amounts of people once you put the hashtag on. If you don't put a hashtag on your post, it might just stay in your little world of 10 followers. But once you put the hashtag in, it actually will amplify your posts to different users across the social media site, whichever one it might be. You may want to tag other people. You want to write things in a way that, you say something like, I was honored to be asked to speak at this event, over the weekend, whatever, XYZ symposium, and put a picture. Pictures captivate, more people's attention. So having a picture is helpful. Not everyone's always, people will just kind of scroll through words, but pictures make people stop for a second and then read the post. So those are some ways to just get started with thinking about the content, and then tagging other people, and then also amplifying other people. So when I'm on LinkedIn and I see that colleagues are putting things down that what they've done and what they've accomplished, I will congratulate them. I will repost or share the post on my page as well. And those are good ways to get your name, further out there, because other people will then click on your on your on your on your profile. And LinkedIn is nice because it will actually tell you, it will give you analytics. And I think you can even pay to see further analytics on, how many engagements have your posts had, how many views has your profile had. LinkedIn will do that for free. I get that every so often. You've appeared in X number of searches. X number of people have clicked on your profile in the last week. And that gives you an idea of, the kind of the traction that you're gaining on the site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So, Diana, you said not to necessarily can you hear me?
Yeah, overshare.
Not right, like not overshare your personal story, but you also said to have a page about me. So you recommend that someone does more like professional stuff and
Yeah, your about me is, really tailored content, right? You are putting out there something that you are editing and are going to have, posted either on your website, on your profile, and that's edited and there for people to see. But that's something that you really put time and thought into. Oversharing, what you did, what you did over the weekend, who you went out with, your kid's soccer game. You have to also think about, like, so for example, my Twitter page, when I was very active on that, I shared nothing, about my personal life. My kids and my family was not involved in any of my posts. That's like for my private Facebook page that is, not public, and no one, can see if they're not friends with me. So I was very mindful to keep the Twitter account professional, and not overshare anything that, about me personally. Does that help, that distinction? The
yeah.
about me is much more edited.
Thank you.
Diana, thank you for the presentation. Any hints or advice on how many people to accept on LinkedIn? Because I usually accept other physicians, but it just gets overwhelming. There's so many recruiters and
Yeah.
business people. So do you have any guidance on that?
So because I think it's important to kind of grow your footprint, I tend to be pretty broad in who I will just accept. But what happens is they start sending you messages. I don't engage on messages. These recruiters, these people who are trying to get you to sign up for one of their courses, whatever it might be. I don't engage. So there's lots of messages. That's kind of the annoying part, because people will want to, reach out personally and set up time to talk about this, that, or the other, things that you have not even expressed interest in discussing. So I tend to accept broadly, but don't engage on messages with anybody.
Thank you.
And when you said about branding where you work, or not just being part of the system of where you work, what do you mean? Like not to post only things on that, or?
So in terms of what your brand is, so we work at some of us are, I work at Northwell, right? So I have certain values that I share with the organization. I have probably many values that I share with Northwell. But what Northwell's values and doesn't encompass my whole brand. There are things that I'm going to be doing that are not organizational. So you want to include your organization as one part of your brand, but certainly, I think you have to think beyond that. And it's also just how you market yourself out there, in the world, because we shouldn't just have our brand be because say that you do lose your job, right? Well, you're looking at another health system, and your online content has to do with your previous organization. You have to be more than that. You don't want to just box yourself in. So you want to think about what separates me. And that's why having a website, and I don't have a website, so that's full disclosure, but having a website, and when I find that physicians have put the time into having a website for themselves, they're going the extra step to really make themselves stand out and be their own person.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been very eye-opening and wonderful. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
I have a quick question. Did you have any instances, or do you know of any instances where the organization where you work asked you to put things down from your social media, like they didn't like it? Just wondering.
No. So I can't think of anything personally. So I guess I don't want to get into politics, but there are certain very hot topic political issues out there that will get people in trouble, For example, I'll share. The picture you're looking at of me was taken by a Newsday reporter because I was supposed to have been in an article on cannabis use and whatever it was. This is a few years back now, and maybe not a few years back, maybe last year, but the person who was writing the article ended up posting something about the Gaza conflict, and she was a like a contractor or something. She was independent, but and Newsday said, to hell with you, and we're not having anything to do with you now. And whether or not she was in the right or wrong in her opinion is not important. It was the fact that it was a polarizing opinion. Newsday didn't want to do anything to do with her. So I never got the article that I worked with on her published in Newsday. It ended up in some low-level publication someplace. But it's so you can polarize people against wanting to work with you, or even worse than that, potentially get yourself fired if you are too polarizing in what the content is that you're posting. So people who are smart online will try to avoid being too opinionated on hot button issues.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Diana, do you have an electronic business card that you use?
So Northwell does have us have one, but I don't, I think I have the app.
Have one?
I can pull it up on the app.
Did you say they don't allow you to have one?
No, we have one. They actually made us all get
Yeah.
an app where we can share it. So I do have it. I can't say I'm proficient at using it though.
Right. Usually, you know what, Carol, like if you go to one of those doctor meetings, night meetings that they're having on the Western region, Eastern region, I'm sure you got some of the emails. And then you go and they actually have you sign in and they give you the card and you can just have your phone and it completely connects with the other person. They have that. Mm-hmm.
Oh, the app that Northwell uses is called Mobilo app. I don't even know my login. Mobilo. That's the app that they had us download to share our electronic business card.
Any other questions? Well, thank you very much, everyone who attended tonight. And as Emily mentioned, the entire conference is taped, so that we'll have a library that people can view if they weren't anybody that you speak with that wasn't able to attend tonight, if they want to view the conference. So thank you, Diana.
Mm-hmm.
Pleasure having
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Great
much.
job.
Thanks so
you.
much,
Great
Diana,
job.
for your time.
It was great.
Really
Thanks.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Really great. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Have
Bye.
a great evening. Thanks for coming.